Today's video is sponsored by Hyperspace, a tabletop game of interstellar conquest. Hyperspace features 25 unique alien civilizations, including, and this is a slight spoiler, several races from the works of H.P. Lovecraft, all vying for control of a newly discovered star cluster. Uniquely, Hyperspace features no upkeep phase, meaning that games are usually shorter, about 90 minutes for 4 players. What's more, play never really stops, so there's constant action. If this sounds good to you, check out the link to Peterson Games down in the description. A few months ago, I made a video talking about one of the Empire's major mistakes, not assaulting Mon Calamari directly. Mon Cala, of course, was essentially an open revolt against the Empire, not only standing defiantly, but providing the Rebel Alliance with their most powerful line of capital ships. However, I think it's time to revisit the idea. I've done a bit more reading, and it turns out the Empire had several specific reasons for not attacking the planet or the associated shipyards. First, let's talk broadly. A couple of weeks ago, we discussed post-Yavin Imperial morale. The Alliance had just struck a serious blow against the Empire, painting the government as incompetent and, what's worse, impotent and unable to stop even small rebel threats. Because the Empire's reign was predicated largely on the fear of overwhelming force, any loss which had an effect on the Empire's perceived strength actually threatened the stability of the government, with even the possibility of open rebellions. On this note, one of the main reasons the Empire did not attack Mon Cala is similar to why they held off attacking Yavin after the destruction of the first Death Star. Mon Calamari had been an open revolt since 1 ABY, but had a powerful system-wide defense force, made largely of not only Mon Calamari civilian ships retrofitted for war, but also a portion of the Alliance Navy. These forces were so powerful that even before Mon Calamari formally seceded from the Empire 2 years earlier, it had expelled Imperial forces from the system. So a small attack on Mon Calamari would be wasteful and most likely easily repelled. To actually do damage to the Mon Calamari shipyards, the force would need to be significant, perhaps Death Squadron and additional ships. The problem is, there's 2 serious risks here. First, the Empire was spread so thin at this point that the attacking capital ships would likely need to be pulled from active duty, which risks, of course, the Alliance discovering and exploiting a vulnerability in Imperial defenses. This is especially problematic when you're dealing with a faction like the Alliance, which relies heavily on hyperspace-capable starfighters and uses hit-and-run tactics, basically moving in, inflicting serious damage, and running before a proper response can be sent. The Alliance was great at exploiting weaknesses without having to dedicate a ton of resources. As a largely stateless faction, they could also do so without having to worry about a full-scale response. However, perhaps an even worse scenario for the Empire is one where the Alliance brings their entire fleet back to Mon Calamari, and along with the system's defense forces and of course planetary defenses, actually routs the Imperial fleet. The issue here wouldn't be a loss of assets, but instead the emboldening of Alliance sympathetic systems. I think it's really hard to overstate the psychological impact that the destruction of the first Death Star had on the entire galaxy, but especially Imperial High Command. The Mon Calamari, of course, were very aware of the difficult position the Empire was in, and dug in, making it so it would be extraordinarily costly and difficult to capture the system. The Essential Guide to Warfare has the following quote: "After throwing off the Imperial yoke, the Mon Calamari had mined and disrupted existing routes into their sector while scouting new secret routes, ensuring that their territory couldn't be reclaimed without a brutal struggle. The Empire was hesitant to engage in such a campaign, fearful that anything other than a speedy victory would embolden other rebellious systems." So basically, the Mon Calamari also cut themselves off from the rest of the galaxy, essentially closing off hyperroutes while also discovering new lanes that only they would know about. This meant they could still produce and send ships to the Alliance without there being a way for outsiders to get in. Of course, bypassing these defenses was possible, but so difficult that the Empire risked looking foolish, or again, suffering a serious loss. Still, notwithstanding all this, Mon Calamari possessed basically the only shipyard the Alliance was heavily using, and there's no doubt that with enough time, and if the war went on for long enough, the Empire would have amassed a force that the Alliance couldn't hope to defeat. Surely a crippling of military infrastructure to this degree would be worth any embarrassment. Why didn't they attack then? Well, Palpatine had an ace in his sleeve, the Death Star 2. His plans were to engage the rebellion at Endor, meaning that a good portion of the rebel fleet would simply come to him, where they could be defeated openly. With the main battle force destroyed, he could then move on to some of the more troubling systems. In a move that echoed the blockade of Yavin until the Executor was completed, the Empire was basically happy to simply park a fleet outside of Mon Cala, a fleet which would wait until the Death Star was done at Endor, then escort the gigantic battle station to the planet which it would easily annihilate. Another fleet also pinned down Chandrilla and likely other systems, although of course, after Endor, the Death Star 2 was destroyed and the invasion fleet, which had been under the command of Grand Moff Ardis Kane, retreated away from Mon Calamari and across the galaxy, where it would fortify and defend territory. The Mon Calamari were an absolutely incredible fighting force, and the whole system is unique in that it openly revolted against the Empire before the Battle of Yavin, then formally seceded in 1 BBY. All of this while managing to not only stave off destruction, but provide the Alliance with its most valuable capital ships. The Dark Empire sourcebooks states that one of the Empire's greatest mistakes was messing with the Mon Calamari in the first place. Of course, this led to the Reborn Emperor targeting the planet during the first strike of Operation Shadow Hand. If you're interested in that, and the Empire's use of World Devastators, I've covered it in a prior video, which I'll link in the upper right hand corner. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching, and of course Peterson Games for sponsoring today's video. We will be running a set of sponsored pre-rolls over the next 3 weeks. I really hope you guys don't mind. I thought the plug was pretty unintrusive and that the product might be something a lot of you would be genuinely interested in. I get a lot of sponsor requests and I turn the majority of them down. If you are interested, check out the link in the description. However, before we go, I will answer today's question of the day. Zachary Morrison asks about the Librarian speeding up Chief's evolution in Halo 4. As of right now, we don't know what the effects of Chief's unlocked gene song are, other than of course he can survive being attacked by the composer. Definitely, however, an open thread for future stories. Thank you a bunch for asking. If you guys have a question of the day you'd like me to address about Star Wars, Halo, or anything else, make sure to leave it down below with the hashtag AskEck. Anyway, until next time guys, thanks for tuning in again. May the Force be with you.